Everyone ready? Call the Carlisle Village Council meeting to order. Would everyone please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamb? Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Mr. Bignell?
Here.
Mr. McIntosh?
Here.
Ms. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Humphries?
Present.
Mayor Winkler?
Here. We have a motion to suspend the reading of the minutes by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Bignell?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. Before you are the minutes of our regular meeting of November 13th, 2018. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Bignell?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. The minutes of November 13th have been approved. And next is our public forum. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address council this evening? Seeing none, we'll close the public forum. We'll move on to council reports. Mr. Lamb, would you like to start off this evening?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jewett?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. Mr. Bicknell?
I also have nothing this evening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McIntosh?
A couple things. I know that Mr. Humphries will talk about this in the committee report, but I would like to thank him personally and Mrs. Deanna Stewart for their work on the tree lighting ceremony that was last night. They pulled it together and it went off, to my knowledge, without a hitch. I'm sure there was some behind the scenes chaos, but I appreciate their effort in making that happen and getting some of our events back that we've had in the past. I know the Bird family was very appreciative, so I appreciate them taking ownership of that, and staff, fire department, and everyone involved for making that happen. Second, on the same note, we are having a community decorating contest. That flyer has been posted on social media. If you have any questions, you can call Town Hall or call me or email me. The deadline to enter is the 10th. We do have some prizes, some different categories. We'd love to see a lot of homes decorated this holiday season. And third, if anyone hasn't seen it, there was an article in the Middletown Journal and the Dayton Daily News, I believe, regarding upcoming enhancements and upgrades to the regional wastewater facility that we use along with Franklin and Germantown in Warren County. And the article didn't say it, but it almost gave the impression that the commissioners were asking if the plan presented was feasible and if each entity could afford it and pay their share. It almost created a feeling that we couldn't. But it's not something that has come out of nowhere. It's been known coming down the pipe, and we've made arrangements accordingly to prepare for it. But I would like Ms. Duffy to address that real quick, if she would.
Sure. There's been discussion for actually some years about some needed improvements at the Franklin Regional Wastewater Board. For those who aren't familiar, that is our sewage treatment facility. Carlisle, Franklin, Germantown, and a portion of Warren County flow to that treatment facility, and we are joint partners as municipalities in that. We have been, the board at the wastewater treatment facility has been in preparation for known expansion to the system and improvements for quite some time. And we actually have been, all of our entities paying towards the upcoming capital improvement repairs already. So it is time now for the enhancements to happen. Because it is a unique situation, we like to be Carlisle and unique, where we have multiple jurisdictions involved in this upgrade, as well as a private company that does the daily operation. Financing is a bit unique because we have public funds going to help both a public resource as well as a private resource, since it is a private company that operates it. So the financing is just a bit unique, trickier. It will involve bonds, both that are tax exempt and taxed because of the dual entities involved. With that, we need to have a contractual relationship about the financing for it. The commissioners, all the entities have reviewed the plans. It's been thought of for several months now. And the commissioners turned to look at the plans, and they've raised a couple questions at their last meeting last week. Two big questions were, one, in order to do this as equitably as possible, we want to get rid of the taxed debt as quickly as possible. So the plan was for the Warren County to pay for their share of the enhancements upfront and in cash. That would allow us to basically not have to go into debt on the tax side as much as we would if they would finance it the way our municipalities were. So their question was, since it was proposed that they pay cash, should all the municipalities pay cash as well, or get their own financing to bring cash to the table? As it was explained to the commissioners today at their meeting by the bond counsel, a couple issues with that. One, each municipality may or may not have the legal debt capacity to issue that amount of debt. We are under certain statutes about how much debt we're allowed to issue. That was an issue, but the big issue was, in order to get the best rate on the bonds, to make us more attractive to the bond market, it's better to present it as a larger package rather than each entity going out for smaller debt issuances. If in the long run, by doing it as smaller chunks, it would actually cost more than us combining it together and paying our fair share, our payments along the way. So the commissioners were satisfied with that answer by the bond counsel. The Warren County Prosecutor's Office reviewed that and was satisfied as well. And the second concern they had, which was a concern for all the jurisdictions as well as Warren County, was language that was originally put into the agreement about what if one of the jurisdictions could not make their payment. The original language in there was that the remaining partners would make sure that the payments were made and make the payments whole, with the thought that this would, again, help make the debt more attractive to the debt issuers. Warren County commissioners had concerns that meant that each individual jurisdiction may be accepting more risk than what their actual share of the debt would be. So the agreement was tweaked to provide language that does indicate that each jurisdiction is responsible for their own share of this debt. And once that language was put into the agreement, the commissioners were satisfied. And at this morning's commissioners meeting, they passed a resolution to enter into an agreement with it. Does that help answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tankersley?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Humphries?
I had a citizen inquire about street lighting. Those that are on utility poles that have the overhang, I know our energy company takes care of those. Those that are on single poles, for example, Eagle Ridge, that are on the individual properties. If a light were to go out on one of those, whose responsibility is it to replace that light? Is it?
All of our street lights, with the exception, I believe, of Colonial Village Apartments, we have a maintenance agreement with Duke to take care of all of our street lights.
Okay. That would be my question for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll close council report, move on to mayor's report. Just to tag on to Mr. McIntosh's comment, I'd like to thank everyone involved with the tree lighting last night, from Tim and his group, Mrs. Stewart and whoever. Thank you for everything you've done, the ladies who led the singing, the church for the cookies, and the hot chocolate and so forth afterwards. It was a nice event, and appreciate all your hard work. And that's all I have this evening. We'll move on to manager's report.
Okay, thank you. I think we can't say it enough, but I am very appreciative of everyone who helped out with the tree lighting ceremony. I think it's a great annual tradition that we have. It's nice to see the community get together to celebrate a member of our community, especially one that served us for so long in various capacities, and just to hang out together as a community. It was a little brisk last night, but it was a great event. I would like to congratulate the Carlisle Theater Program for their performance of Gatsby. Hopefully everyone got a chance to go out and see them. It's great to see such talented youth in our community and to be supportive of it. And with that in mind, keep an eye out. We'll help promote as well as the school. I know the theater program is going to be doing some various shows in the next upcoming months. That will be a show for a fundraiser to be used to help the arts program, and they are gearing up towards their spring musical, which is always my favorite. Love a good musical. And this year it's Footloose, an excellent movie if you've never seen it. So I can't wait to see the performance. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I believe that show is right around the first or second weekend in March-ish. And then to tag along Mr. Humphrey's comment about streetlights, we do, although we do not maintain majority of the streetlights in town, we are the facilitator of getting with Duke to have them come out and make repairs. So if you do have a streetlight that's out, please call in with the location of that streetlight. We'll get it tagged and add it to our list. It is Duke that maintains it, and usually they like to see a list of so many streetlights out in the area before their crew comes in, but we keep on them, so definitely don't be afraid to call in. Don't assume that we know that your streetlight is having issues. Make sure that it's on our list. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the manager report. We'll move on to committee reports, and Mr. Humphreys has a committee report this evening.
I would like, I've got a nice list of those I'd like to acknowledge from the Special Events Committee. Financially, the support came from the Pilkington family, from Carlisle Self Storage, People's Bank, Rhagar family, Humphrey Cycle Shop, the Miller family, Tracy and Travis with Carlisle Barbershop. I'd also like to thank Billy, the son of Mayor Byrd, for his kind words, his wife Laura for leading us in song, Miss Duffy and staff for their support. And the interesting thing is I'm not one much for cooking for myself. I'm surely not one for trying to cook for 75 or more or whatnot. So a little bit of an eye-opening experience to me. The linchpin that really held all that together was Deanna Stewart and her daughter Lauren. Could not have done it without them. Bob Rhagar himself also was there from start to finish when we got to the church, as far as moving things from one location to another. So Larry Lamb with Hillcrest Baptist Church and working with Mrs. Holt with the Carlisle Community Church. Couldn't have done it without them. We've already expressed ideas of what to do better for next year, how to make things more organized, more streamlined, more efficient, and so I think we got through this one, and anyone that showed up was very appreciative and thankful. I think they all had a good warm dinner, and I did leave the mayor's house before I came here, and Dean Byrd made the comment that it couldn't have been any better. So I think that right there solidifies it. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. We have no old business or new business. We'll move on to first readings of ordinance and resolutions. Resolution 1818, resolution requesting advance for county auditor, and that is on for an emergency. Would you like to explain the emergency, Mr. Rushing?
I'll do just that. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Hope you all enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday. For your consideration this evening is a resolution to authorize me as the finance director to request an advance from the county auditor on funds that have been collected by the county treasurer in regards to a special property assessment. As outlined in your memo, but I will summarize We have a Fund 703, which is the Jamaica Road Assessment Bonds. This fund's sole purpose is to finance the water line improvements on a property on the north part of Union Road. This property had a water improvement extension, and to finance that, we issued a bond, and this fund is the debt servicing fund in order to pay off that debt. The sole revenue of this fund comes from a special property assessment to that property, and any sort of revenue collected, whether it be real estate taxes or special assessment or anything dealing with property, is collected by the county treasurer and settled twice a year. The second settlement for this year was from March 10th through August 3rd. The property owner did not pay until August the 6th, so it was a late payment, so therefore it was not collected in our settlement, and we did not receive those funds. So currently, right now, Fund 703 is actually running technically a negative balance because of, again, the sole revenue for this fund is from the special assessment to that property for that water line improvements. So in order to get the money from the county treasurer, there's a section with the Ohio Revised Code which authorizes any local jurisdiction to do what's called an advance. An advance is any monies collected by the county treasurer that are held can be advanced prior to the settlement. Again, settlements only happen twice a year from the county. So if you're outside that those two windows, you have to wait until the following settlement, which will not be until, in this case, spring of 2019. So in order to get those funds, to make the fund positive, council has to pass this resolution authorizing me to request to the county auditor an advance so we get those revenues receipted in the correct fund in order to be able to close the year on a positive balance. As you all know, it would become an audit issue if we were to close the year with a negative balance. The only other option would be to do an advance internally from our general fund. So another option, if council would like, it would be to advance from the general fund to Fund 703 and then wait until spring of 2019 until this late payment is included in the first half settlement. The issue with that is that, again, since the county treasurer already has the funds, it makes sense to not do an internal advance, but just to request it from the county auditor we get those funds now as they're sitting there. And also, any dollars in our bank account will gain interest over the month. So it'll be in our advantage to capture that interest to get the money in our account. The emergency is due to, obviously, if we would do 3 readings or a single reading, it'd be into 2019, defeating the whole purpose of doing an advance into the county auditor, into the fund, to make that account positive. So that's why the emergency is there, so I can immediately send a letter to the county auditor requesting the advance, therefore getting the funds from the county, making this fund positive, and moving on with the year.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Rushing? May I have a motion to suspend a rule requiring 3 readings, have 1 reading by title only, and declaring an emergency?
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes.
A resolution requesting the county auditor to make advances during the year 2018 pursuant to Section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. Resolution 1818 has been adopted. Move on to second and third readings of ordinance and resolutions. Ordinance 2318, fiscal year 2019 appropriations budget on for a third and final reading.
An ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the municipality of Carlisle, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Any discussion? Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. Ordinance 2318 has been adopted. Next, we have an executive session for personnel, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. And there may be possible action to follow. And then after our work session, or our executive session is over, we will be having a work session. And the work session is to discuss various zoning code issues and possible updates. And the public is welcome back to the work session after the executive session is over. So at this time, may I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. We are now in executive session. We have a motion to go back into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. We are now back in regular session.
I would like to make a motion to amend tonight's agenda and add Resolution 1918 to the agenda to have a reading.
We have a second.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. Want to read the resolution?
Do you have to do the emergency first?
Oh, well, I guess we do. I didn't see the emergencies part. May I have a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and have 1 reading by title only and declaring an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the manager to sign an agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, and declaring an emergency.
Before you tonight is a new contract with our police department. Our current contract expires December 31st, 2018. That is why the reason for the emergency language is to allow me to sign it so it goes into full force effect by 1/1 of 19.
Any further discussion? Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Go ahead.
Roll call?
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. Resolution 1918 has been adopted. As I stated earlier, we have a work session tonight to discuss various zoning code issues and possible updates. The work session is open to the public if anyone would like to attend. This time, we have a motion.
One final thing, just for the record, there will be a finance committee meeting
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
on
one
December
job, Randy.
11th at 6:30. So just those on committee and the rest of council is more than welcome to come. And I would just say as a general reminder to the public as well as to council, December the 11th, there will be 2 separate council meetings that evening. And that date will be the last regular council meeting date of 2018.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Bicknell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Winkler?
Yes. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Chief.